great thing about working in Baja California, first off, is the proximity to Los Angeles.
El equipo mexicano es un equipo de calidad. Son gente que están acostumbrados al trabajo, saben lo que es, saben lo que hay que hacer, están en todos los niveles. Así que hasta ahora todo el trabajo ha sido sumamente profesional, todo el mundo, desde los choferes, conductores, a la gente que está trabajando, catering, todo.
The crew base here, from everywhere from, you know, line producing to ADs to the construction and art department and production design, you know, the fabrication, you know, there's this amazingly deep crew base that have been here, you know, for 15 years.
If you look at just the amount of extras we have in the movie, I think we're exceeding like 1,500 or something. A lot of our speaking parts, I would say probably around 20 speaking parts, are all local actors, plus all the supports like catering and construction and all the other support businesses that come with the industry. They're all local. No complaints.
So many things exist right here that they would need. They might have to go all over different parts of the world to get them, but it's all right here. And because the sea is part of it, I mean, it's like perfect.
The Secretary of Tourism's office has been incredibly supportive and helpful, and you know, our people, I feel I can call on their cell phones and say, hey, I'm running into this, can you help? And everyone has advice and guidance, and you don't feel alone here.
The quality of life is very good. I mean, it's very nice to, you know, wake up and you're on the beach and you're very, very close to the studio.
This facility is still fully in business and is fully operational. You know, we're going to be filling up 3 of the 4 main tanks, including the, you know, 6-acre, you know, massive tank. And so, you know, we're going to be having the facility fully up and operational.
I'd like to see more films. We are the only film working on the block at the moment, and I'd like to see a lot more. I think if people knew about this facility that is sort of this good and people around here that are this competent, I think they'd be flocking here in their drove.
I think there's so much more to explore.
The people in Mexico where we're shooting have been amazing about allowing us to do most of it.
The people have been amazing. The food has been amazing.
It's an amazing place to come and shoot a film, and, you know, in an amazing facility to shoot a film.
I've met nothing but charming people here, and I think it's a great place.
I wish we could do every single movie that we do here.
Hola, everyone. Buenas noches. Good to see you all back here at the Borderless Content Congress for our Masterclass with Nonny de la Pena. Nonny is one of the luminaries in the world of extended reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, whatever you want to call it, continues to evolve. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things. She's got a long history. I don't want to go into the whole history of it and do a long introduction, because she's going to do that herself, and you'll learn a lot about her. Let's just say that she is truly one of the founders, one of the pioneers in this immersive medium and what it is becoming. So I'm going to run first the sizzle for her company called the Emblematic Group, where you will see clips of a lot of her works, including the pioneering work that won the New Frontiers Award at Sundance in 2012, which was the first VR entry in Sundance, which was called Hunger in LA. And then you'll get caught up real quick on the whole issue of what this means for storytelling and immersive journalism. So why don't you go ahead and run that sizzle for the emblematic group? And then Nonny will give us an intro.
The real VR pioneer, Nonny de la Pena.
What if I could present you a story that you remember with your entire body and not just with your mind? So what'd you think? Oh, you're crying. With VR, virtual reality, I can put you on scene in the middle of the story. You get this whole body sensation.
There's a bunch of cops here. They're like standing around, something's going on. Oh, right here. That's not cool.
On the other side of a fence, there's all these people just like kicking and beating.
We can have what I call this duality of presence, a real feeling as if you are in the middle of something that you normally see on TV news.
So I started applying all these ideas, what I named immersive journalism. And we all know being there is the most important part of understanding almost anything that's happening. Along in a partnership with America's premier investigative documentary series, Frontline, who had incredible access on solitary confinement cells. What that is photogrammetry. And it's exact photographs of a cell. You are walking around the exact cell, the exact footprint. You are in the room. This works so well for putting people on scene at real stories. So then what? You got to put the people in there. How do you do that? I can now put you in the room with somebody who is videotaped in volume. You can literally walk around them in a volumetric way.
Emblematic is among the world's leading producers of virtual and augmented reality, with more than 10 years of experience. We create innovative, high-impact, immersive media, ranging from emotionally powerful stories for media companies, brands, and global culture, to OTT solutions for world-class partners in business-to-business virtual reality distribution. Let your audience experience your message in a deeply powerful and intimate experience. Don't just tell your story, live it.
Thanks. I should also introduce myself, by the way. I'm Stuart Volkow, and I have a background in XR production and research. And I'm here at UC San Diego at the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination and helping to organize the Borderless Content Congress. So I'm going to turn it over to Nonny, and she's going to do her own introduction, and then we can have a discussion. Nonny?
Yeah, thank you so much, Stuart. Hi, thank you so much. I thought, guys, I'd just do a really quick overview of some of the ideas that underpin what we've made and also show you a little bit of new work. So I'm going to share my screen and do a little quick PowerPoint that will give you some ideas about what we're working on right now. All right, let's see, PowerPoint, where are you? And let me go into full screen here. So you got that dim already. But some of you may know that my background was I started as a journalist. I was a correspondent for Newsweek, and this is one of the cover stories I worked on back when there was a magazine. Hate to date myself, but that's the reality. And the truth is that we were trying to put you on scene at this event that was going on. A lot of drug use, et cetera. And there's a female World War II reporter named Martha Gellhorn, and she used to call it The View from the Ground. That's what we were trying to do in journalism, and it's what I was trying to do in VR. And I know Stuart and I will talk a little bit more about my personal background when I'm done. But that was how, this was Hunger in LA, which Stuart mentioned, right? This first piece, and it's in our trailer. But the interesting about these things is that, you know, people really felt very emotional, right? When I made this, I had no idea how it was going to turn out. You can see the characters aren't perfect. Things are kind of cobbled together. I built it for $700, but that's the one that got into Sundance. And at the time, we only had the $50,000 pair of goggles. And I was working at USC, University of Southern California, in a lab there. And I was told you can't take that pair of goggles with you. So we had to make goggles. And there was a lab intern who was working on the hardware. Those black dots in the middle are represent where your eyeballs go, right? They call it the IPD. And I have a really skinny head, and he had a big fat head, and we're trying to figure out where you know, how to make these goggles. But we showed up with this pair that went to Sundance looking like this. You maybe could read at the bottom there, it says Palmer Lucky. That was the goggles that Palmer went on then to work on further. And 9 months later, you know, at Sundance, it was crashed in my hotel room, driving the truck around with like the lab intern. But 9 months later, he started Oculus Rift and sold that company before he was old enough to drink, I believe, to Facebook for about $3 billion. Opening night, you saw a little clip from this. He had no idea how people would react.
So what'd you think? Oh, you're crying.
And that was Gina. So let's just say, why does volumetric content work? And, you know, this whole idea of spatial computing. Oh, sorry, let me click back onto this. It's because we're hardwired to adopt representations of ourselves as real. So even with Hunger in LA and those donated wonky characters, people said things to me like, wow, I knew that was a seizure victim because his knees were scraped up. Or in the scene that follows, this woman in the red, she goes to steal food, which is what happened that real day, because the audio is all from an actual scene where a man with diabetes doesn't get food in time. But there are no GoPro cameras, so I remade it all digitally. And somebody said to me, oh, I could tell she was a heroin addict because of the needle marks. Well, these were just donated characters or digital characters I'd purchased online. But if you can't tell, that's the Virgin Mary in a tortilla. This got a little bit of press, and it makes it very clear that, you know, we will put human figures in our mind into everything we see. Some of you may know about this study. It is one in which a paraplegic was being trained to use his mind to try to run a computer interface to drive that crazy equipment. And they were having him imagine his body through VR goggles. After a year of doing this, believe it or not, some synapses returned in his body. He was able to actually control his bowel movements. And this happened with everybody in the study. Now, he didn't get up and walk, but to be able to control your bowel movements in a way you hadn't before, just by regaining some new synapses in your brain, is pretty remarkable. And a little bit, you know, more on working in like 360. This was a piece we did where we flew you over Greenland and put you inside a helicopter, as you'll see.
Well, when you look at the glacier like that, from the vantage point of an helicopter, it looks like it's going to be here forever. How could it possibly go away?
So, I'm sorry, I've got one missing. But anyway, we used that to clamp over that helicopter, and then we made a 3D helicopter and put you inside it so you could actually fly over the internet. I'm going to advance this one a tiny bit. This is a 360 film. We did this past summer.
The hardest lesson I've ever learned, I was 8 years old. It was the lesson that we are going to lose people in our lives and that we don't have to get used to it, but to understand and accept it. When I lost my father, I was 2 months old. My mother had been arrested, so I lived with my stepfather. I was raised by him until I was 8 years old. He was like a father to me. When my mom had been out of jail for a week, my stepfather was killed. The lesson is to accept that all of this is to make us stronger.
So a little bit more on that series, New Reality. It was 10 films about young women activists. I also did one. We did one in Mexico, set in Monterrey, with this brilliant young woman who really understands data. And I recommend you go to the Lenovo series and go and watch that film. The one that I just showed you was out of Brazil, but I really love that train shot. So finally, I'm going to talk a little about how XR, the future is volumetric and spatial. We're going to be looking at content that's not flat. We're going to be capturing everything volumetrically. The way that we capture characters now is much advanced. This is a Microsoft capture. And what it shows is a woman who was a Olympic fencer, and she used to fight this guy when she was 10, and then in college again, and now they're engaged to get married. And I think that's the first time a kiss has been captured in full volume on a stage. This past summer, we also did some work in virtual production, which I think people here will really find interesting. This was all done in the Unreal game engine, but we used cinematic lighting and cinematic techniques for a fashion piece. So that was shown at the Milan Fashion Week. For folks who couldn't go, we built this out for the GCDS brand. But the LiDAR scanner on the new iPhone 12 means that we're going to be really capturing everything with volume, everything spatially. And there's going to be this huge data set of 3D objects that we're going to start building with. And that's how I ended up really thinking about, A, how do we make game engine technology easier? And B, what are we going to do with all these objects we captured? And that's why we came up with a no-code solution called Reach. And I think I'll pause and let Stuart and I chat for a little while. And then, Stuart, I can come back to Reach and do a live demo of Reach after we've chatted a little.
Thank you. That was great. That was a lot to digest. That was like the whole history of VR, XR in a nutshell, where it's going. Let's start at the top. So you got into this, the original reason, that Time magazine cover, because you're a journalist and you're interested in human rights and you're interested in justice and social issues. So we talked about that a little bit earlier today, and they call you the godmother of VR. I was wondering who the mother was and who the godfather was.
I know, really. There's a whole
story.
You can talk. I'll tell you, that came from that actual. The second time I went to Sundance, where people kept coming in September, it was 2014, and people kept coming in and going, hey, Nonny introduced me to VR, and she started me, and yeah, her Palmer Luckey was here with the goggles, and the Engadget reporter turned to me and went like, you're like the godmother, and then he printed that, and then that was it. Then everybody.
I see.
So it wasn't me who called myself that. I just got to let you know.
The fellow journalist. But that got you to where people were calling it the empathy engine, because what struck you was that this moved people in a way that was fundamentally different from print or television, broadcast journalism, print journalism, or even cinema. And you talk about it, and the industry talks about it, that there's a sense of presence or embodiment. So let's talk about that for just a moment. What is that? Why is it so important? And do you still feel that way? Is that why you're still doing this?
So I feel very strongly about the fact that we can put people on scene in real stories and really engage with the content in a way that is very unique to this medium. you know, we listen to podcasts, so it's not like radio is going away or audio is going away, or that we're not going to, that filmmaking is going to go away. No, this is just another medium, but with a unique and different kind of power. I continue to make all kinds of content. You saw the one New Realities 360 video, but I'm also working on, Reach is a WebXR platform, and I've been working on a WebXR version of a story about a kid who was taken to one of the Japanese American concentration camps during World War II. And that entire story, in collaboration with the Japanese American National Museum, will be putting you on scene in the real barracks, photogrammetry of the barracks, etc. But the whole story will be told through the web. So you'll be able to use your keyboard to move around. You'll be able to watch it on a phone, or if you have a headset, you literally hit one button and you'll be able to walk through the scene. And that's what the Reach tool lets you do. But I continue to use these tools or create these tools to tell these stories. And in this particular case, the museum's closed, and how are we going to distribute this? And this is a really wonderful way that I can begin to let a story go anywhere that the web can go, and yet it be not flat like a 2D screen, but with volume, the way all the rest of my work is as well.
So that volume, the ability to do something where you can move around in 6 degrees of freedom in space, and you can see things as they really are, which people call embodiment or presence. That is that the thing that makes this different?
Yeah, I call it duality of presence, right? Because you feel like you're, I mean, you know you're here, but you feel like you're there too. And that's this really unique sensation. Like, you know, if you go to the movies and something scary happens, you jump, right? Your body's along for the ride. But VR takes it just one step further, and that your entire body is in the middle of the story. And, you know, in the same way, being on scene at any event is going to feel like as if your whole body is there, that you're taking in the story with your whole body and not just through your eyes. VR takes us so much closer to that kind of an experience.
Is this going to evolve as an entertainment medium, or is it going to stay more of a journalistic medium, or is it both?
No, I think it'll be both for sure. I don't know how many people in the audience have already gotten their quests. I've got a couple of quests here in my Rift and my Vive, and getting a nice HP headset. And if you've been in any of those headsets and been able to play some of the games, I admit, I think the one that I'm most addicted to at the moment is Pistol Whip. It's a shooter, but it's a very mild shooter. There's not like a blood stuff, but you have to jump and duck and run, and it is so physical. And especially now with COVID, like it is the most intense workout. And they just had a new release, a cinematic release, by the way, audience, yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to play it. So as soon as this is done, I'm putting on my headset and I'm jumping into the fun. It is so fun, Pistol Whip. There's Beat Saber. There's a lot of great games, and we're actually working on a edutainment game right now about real historical great rock and roll hotel room trashings. So we've got Slash from Guns N' Roses attached, and various other rock stars coming aboard, and we'll be telling about their tales of Slash ending up, for example, hiding in the bus luggage bay, right? Because the police were after them for the hotel trashing when he was on tour. So, you know, what other medium will put you inside a luggage bay while he starts to tell the story and then take you into a trash hotel room and then fix it all up and make you trash it yourself? So there's a lot of fun to be had here. We're just beginning to figure out what it is. And the reason Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu gave me that really wonderful shout out at the Oscars is because I worked with him on Carne Arena, and he's agreed to join me on a journey that I want to do, which is a remake of Joan of Arc, The Passion of Joan of Arc, which was a 1921 black and white film that established the close-up shot. And I want to rebuild it thinking not like the close-up, which took advantage of the full screen, but the embodiment. What does it mean to be embodied in the journey of Joan of Arc? And he's agreed to be producer on that, and I'm just in the middle of raising the funds to actually make that happen.
So will you write that as a screenplay? Is that the
well, lucky for me, the
you're a
1921
filmmaker.
the 1921, well, you have to remember, I wrote on staff on TV shows and I did a bunch of that stuff, but the 1921 script is out of copyright. So I will rely heavily on that to inform the script itself.
So can you take a script meant for linear television and adapt it to this medium? And maybe you can talk a little bit about how you do that.
So I think yes, is absolutely possible. But what you have to do with every shot is, again, think about what does it mean to have the body there? For example, there's a really, really amazing scene in that film where her hair is being all cut off. They're chopping it down, before they're going to put her in the fire. And this hair is falling, and it's an extraordinary thing. But now if you're standing there and the hair is literally falling at your feet, it has a whole different intense feeling. And those are the kind of moments that you're going to look for in the script to enhance. There's a few things I would add, like she manages to jump from a tower, and I want you to be at the base of the tower, watching her jump. Those are the kind of looking up as she's getting out. Those are the kind of moments that can be so viscerally felt in a body. But even though you might watch them and feel them in a flat 2D way, to be there is in front of you, I think will be very powerful. So
that's a very directorial approach. So it's a very auteur way of looking at it. It's almost as if you are doing what directors do to place the camera and find the right angles and anticipate how it's going to edit together. So it's trying to translate to this medium those kinds of things in its own grammar, its own language.
That's correct. That's correct. I think that there's a lot of translation. I mean, a lot of the lighting ideas are there. Certainly you want story arc. There's many things can translate, but one of the biggest things that doesn't translate, as far as I'm concerned, is camera movement. If you move the camera, if you zoom or you pan, and the person's in the headset and the camera's moving, but their body is not moving, you get a disconnect between your eyes saying you're going and your inner ear saying you're not. And that I have found over these years is the #1 cause of nausea in viewers. And so that is a big thing to me. You'll get 30 to 40% of your audience sick. Now you won't get 60% of your audience sick. So if you really want to do something crazy and you're willing to lose a bunch of people, go for it. But I actually am more inclined to include as many people as I can. So I tend to lock the camera down in my work.
So I think the statistic now is there's 4 million of the Quest 2s approximately have been sold.
Wow.
Something like
that. That number. I didn't know that number. Awesome.
On the pipeline, but it's in the millions at this point. So that's a big breakthrough. We've had a few false starts because these headsets have been clunky. They've been expensive. People have gotten headaches and eye strain. And this one seems to now be at a point where it's practical for a consumer to use. So do you think that this is where it's going to end up being as the way of consuming this kind of content, as a 6-DoF Quest 2 like headset, or how do the mobile devices factor into it?
So I think the two are going to just meld. There's no reason why your phone and your headset shouldn't be the same. I'm wearing my Bose bone conduction audio glasses. I meant to take them off, but I was running around outside. I meant to swap them out, but it doesn't matter. I wear them all the time because they're my prescription glasses, but they also go dark, right? They become sunglasses. They also have my audio in here so I can listen to music, or it's got a microphone so I can speak. So I saw some Panasonic ones. They had like an aviator kind of cloth right here. So that they showed at CES that were VR glasses. So there's no reason why somebody like Apple isn't going to be coming out with glasses that can have beautiful audio and great visuals. It's going to happen. I think in the next few years. Again, like I said, Panasonic already showed at CES a pair that they're working on that was very light. And the Quest 2 is, it feels like a miracle today. When I used to make my headset, you saw that crazy cross, but I also had to travel around with like, 22 motion capture cameras that were $100,000 set that I found at a bankruptcy sale, and at least 10 or 12 huge poles for them to be on, right? Tripods. And I would be fixing things with like a paper clip. I mean, it was nuts. And now a Quest 2 to me, I can't even believe it. My Quest 2 is plugged in right there. I charged
But
it.
I always say to people that the problem with the industry is that it was so overhyped that the disappointment was so great that it really set us back. And if the Quest 2 is what the Oculus, DK was supposed to be from the hype that you got about it, and now it's sort of fulfilled the promise, and the world has to now kind of go, oh, it's back, and now it's really working.
And and then it's just a matter of content production, right? I still think there's just not enough. There's a lot, but it's still because of that reputation of being overhyped. It hasn't had the investment in content, but I can tell you that there's still some really, really great stuff out there. And
well, you've run into that. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that. I mean, we had the $1 billion debacle of Magic Leap, and we've had many companies that have come and gone that raised a lot of money. And you have had a lot of trouble raising money, and you, of all people, probably have one of the largest portfolios and proof of concept of anybody that's been in this industry of producing really high quality content. And that's been tough. So why is that?
Why haven't I been able to raise money? Good question. I mean, once you see reach, make sure we have enough time to show it to you. I think that's a great way to help get more content out there. I mean, it's in an early stage, but it's going to have another beta release in a couple of months. But we're working on a cool beta. But the thing that happened with Magic Leap, I think the number one thing that I could watch kind of unrolling in front of my eyes was this massive problem of thinking, well, we've gotten so much money, everybody wants to be engaged with us because we're so, well endowed. But they didn't put money into content. They didn't invest in content. So there was nothing to watch on those expensive goggles. Those glasses were useless because what are you going to do? Stick them on your face and not be able to do anything? So that was their mistake, that they didn't take some of that huge chunk of money and really seed their own ecosystem, because these things become very self-generating. That, once people have fun things to do and people are buying those fun things to do, that leads to more investment into the content, which leads into people buying the goggles. And I think Facebook has done a better job of trying to, or Oculus, to try to also, alongside with development of something like the Quest 2, which is great, they have really done, they've got the resources, but they've put, Magic Leap had the resources, but Oculus has put resources towards content development as well. I think that's been very smart.
Well, there's also been a tremendous amount of effort and resources, money spent on 360 cinema. And a lot of that has not worked out so good because they didn't listen to you about how that should be shot. And it was sort of I think a lot of it failed because they were just trying to replicate traditional cinematography just with, the 360 gear and not try to find the new grammar of it. And some of your content that I've gotten to see they're sort of like short films. I mean, you don't really have to interact with them very much. You can experience them. There's some of the room scale. There's also some that you can experience seated, and takes you through an experience that is very well crafted. So I think that's part of it too, right? It's the storytelling. And as filmmakers, there's people out there that are interested in production, interested in filmmaking, especially that's as international as what you do. And that's something we should also point out, that you've done a lot of content that is global in its reach and subject matter. Is it 3D cinematography? Is it CG? Is it Unreal Unity game engine? Is it all of the above? It's a lot of tools now.
So you know, it's funny because I remember I was like, no, I don't want to make stuff in 360. I remember feeling very strongly about that because I wanted to be able to move through the space as an embodied person. I feel like it's funny. More recently, I've come to appreciate 360 more, and I think that maybe because it's not so inundated with crap anymore, that the people who are making stuff now are mostly people who can make stuff because some of the crap has kind of gone away. But the other thing is that with 360 is that I do think we're going to see a lot of, you know, the cameras are smaller. You can put them on your phone. There's some fun little, like the Q cam does some really nice shots, right? So I'm not opposed to 360, but I do think that people, we need better storytellers using it. And you're absolutely right. It can't be the people who just come in and say, oh, I'm going to take my cinematography and apply it, because it doesn't apply. Like I said, it'll make you sick. You're not thinking about, I don't know what happened. And there was a lot of hype around that too. So
there are a lot of companies that came with cameras. You know, they were trying to sell the cameras, like the Nokia Ozo is a good example. That was,
don't,
you know,
and again, hubris, like a lot of hubris around it
hubris, right?
Well,
let's get to in the time we have left. So where it's now going, which you're so passionate about now, and you showed the last slide of the iPhone 12, which I got to see the other day. My son's grandfather is a realtor, and he just got his iPhone 12 Pro, and I was blown away at how good the photogrammetry worked. I mean, in 5 minutes, we were doing photogrammetry of rooms as good as you could have done with a $50,000 worth of equipment, even like a year and a half ago. And it was geometry, and it was decent texture maps, and it was full room scale magic window walking around that you could share on a browser. That
I have to buy. I have to buy my iPhone 12. You know, my husband hates shopping, so I know I usually buy my own Christmas present and then give it to him to give to me. So that's how I keep peace in the marriage. I get what I want, and he doesn't have to get all unhappy Christmas shopping, and then we can have an eggnog and cognac together, right? We've been together for 23 years, so you got to figure out what brings peace. But anyway, the point you're making, Stuart, is wow, right? People are going to be able to share their world with volume. They're going to share it the way that it really is. So now, how do people easily compile stories? And that's I want to hear other people's stories. I want to see the ecosystem grow. And I know that the way the ecosystem, I know that the hardware, I'll leave that to the hardware guys now. But for content, because by the way, when the Oculus first came out, I had to keep 3D printing my headsets because it's the original Oculus sat you in the chair. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to move around. And I even had this huge piece on Syrian refugees that had to go to the World Economic Forum, and the Oculus goggles didn't work. So with a lot of help from my brother, we were 3D printing them in my mom's garage. So I had my own goggles. I mean, but I'm glad that's passed. And now I can really concentrate on content making. So should I do a quick Reach tour?
So show us Reach. So to reiterate, a lot of people have heard about Unity and Unreal as these engines that are used to produce XR content, which are very complex, and it takes a lot of skill to make them work well. And this is a platform that is meant for more people to be able to use to create content and share it.
So yeah, the thing is that I love Unity and Unreal. They can do beautiful things, but this is meant to be for kind of more over everyday. How does a real estate agent use it? They don't need complicated game physics necessarily. They want to be able to have a room and maybe put somebody inside to talk about it. Like, you can clone these items to your space, or you can make a new one. So I'm going to do a demo for you. I called it that before. And when you come in, you see it's only buttons. It's a no code solution, so you don't have to code anymore. This is, I would say, sort of our alpha version. We have a beta release that we're working on right now, which you can sign up for at info@reach.love, info@reach.love, and we'll get you signed up for when we release. But that's my sky. I don't need my sky yet. Let's start with our terrain. This is a full photogrammetry terrain of a place in, in the desert. The photographers don't tell you exactly where, but you can see that it's, let me just turn off my camera for 1 second if I can do that, because I can see I'm chugging a tiny bit. Stop video. Okay, let's see if that helps a little. But you can see can you hear me, Stuart?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. So this is an actual environment made of photographs, but I just dropped it in, and then you can change your lighting. It immediately comes with 2 lights, but there's a whole bunch of different kinds. The new version will tell you which light you have up, but here's a directional light. I'm going to make it a little brighter for you. I like to use this model because it's a little bit dense, but so as you can see, I can just pull this light across the thing, and Zoom is making this chug a little bit, but it's actually quite smooth when you do it yourself. And
so another point that I should point out is that you can do these at screen on your desktop.
Yeah.
To headset, and you can then get the 6 off in the headset.
That's right. So here I can put in a sky. I'm going to publish one for you to show you what it looks like. I'm going to embed it for you too. The real sky is actually, I have a copy of the real sky. You can put in 360 video, or you can put in a 360 pano if you want. You can put in objects. We had somebody talking about their sustainability. Actually, let me find a fun one of Binder. I had I can find them really fast.
For those of you out there that have not tried to do this, if you were to try to do this in a game engine like Unity or Unreal, it would take a lot more effort
and a lot more hours and a lot more energy, right? Whoops, where'd he go? Right, rotate him out of here. Well, it's a little frustrating because for some reason my internet, obviously Spectrum, everybody's coming into Spectrum right now. Let's find you, Binder.
Well, also we didn't even touch on the fact that since 5G is coming, the ability to do this on mobile devices is going to increase dramatically as well.
That's right. I'm going to try this one more time with my Binder guy because he was on.
I want to do a shout out while you're doing this to the work we do at UC San Diego, at the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination. We have some research going on in extended reality, one of which is called Art and Empathy, where we will simulate artistic experiences to see the effect they have on the brain, to study the neuroscience of empathy. And that's part of the Denny Sanford Institute for Empathy and Compassion. And there's also a group which is the Center for Humanities Engineering, Cultural Heritage Engineering Institute, where they capture a lot of World Heritage sites using photogrammetry and other techniques for posterity. So that's another area where this is really interesting, is preserving heritage sites, archaeological sites for the future and to study.
Okay, I'm going to get him up here. I'm having a little trouble with my internet, so forgive me, but I'm just going to leave him like that, floating in the air, because I don't want to screw around with him anymore. I want to show him to you really fast. So you can play, hit the animation and get it to play. And I'm going to quickly set my camera. So this is some of the techniques that are normal, right? You want your camera where your camera's going to be. There's lighting effects. There's a bunch of other things you can play with here. But let's do a quick preview, see if we can see Bender. We're a little bit close in his face. Let's bring the camera back, and then I'm going to publish it, and then you're going to give me a website to put it in, and then we're going to just embed it, and we'll be done.
So you've taken a computer-generated animation and dropped it into a real photogrammetry captured
And you can put in
environment.
people, you can put in people shot on green screen or flat or other or full volumetric characters, which cost like 10,000 to finish minute. So now I've published it, right, which takes forever in a Unity thing. And here's his iframe code, just like you would like a YouTube video. This will be a button when you come back when we launch the next one. But give me the website there, Stuart.
Well, you can stick it in the chat.
Oh, well, no, give me a website. I'm going to show you something else. Just give me your website.
A website
for the center or
imagination.ucsd.edu.
Imagination. ucsd.edu. Okay. I'm just going to show you how you can quite easily embed this into, let's see if I just grab it into here. And this is what I want to show you, that you don't have to,
I see.
So I'm going to show you how, let's go to this one, edit as HTML. Let's see if I get it in there. And there it is. I've now put it in your website. And I can start. And that's how fast you can publish in the hit start. And there's our scene. And I could put people in. I was just having a little bit of constructing it with the Zoom. It goes normally really, really fast. And with the VR headset, you can put the VR headset and you can start walking around the entire scene.
That is phenomenal.
So that's how fast.
That's days of development in a traditional pipeline.
That's right. That's right. So even with the bad internet, I was able to pull something off for this. So there you go. Reach.love, hoping to make it really easy for everybody to make stuff. And now your father-in-law could put his buildings that he scanned in there, and then he can shoot himself on a green screen or a blue screen, and he can talk about the different rooms and why they're important or why the property is important. And people can walk around listening to him, and he can have that done in minutes instead of, or an hour instead of in paying somebody, $35K to make that for him.
So the few minutes left, what are your plans? You've got a lot of aspirations to do both creative fiction work and more nonfiction work. You've also had some success doing commercial work for the advertising industry. But where's Emblematic going with all this?
So we're a small studio, and as you pointed out, we've never had funding. So the way that we survive is by doing work for for brands and for other companies. We're lucky enough sometimes to do something like for Lenovo, a 10-part series on teenage activists. Amazing. We're also working with some major brands now who are thinking about how do they even have their employees understand better sustainability. And this way they can use something like Reach to build their own scenes and change them around and publish them quickly and have it in-house. So, we have a real mix of, important stories like the one for the Japanese American Museum, fun stuff like the Rock and Roll Hotel trashing, but we would love to see Reach get fully funded so we're able to really give everybody a chance to tell their own stories and help grow the ecosystem.
So twofold, you're a studio, sort of like a traditional studio where you're interested in original content production and distribution, and you're also a technology company where you want to build tools to help other storytellers.
And also solve my own problems. Like, it drove me crazy that, stuff had to go to Steam, and then you have to download it, and then the community wasn't right. When I did the Syria piece, I got a lot of hate, right? A lot of hate stuff fired at me. But we didn't finish with, Stuart, in our 4 minutes? We didn't talk about my love of Mexico.
I was just going to say that. So we should tell everyone that you are a Mexican American or a Mexican American heritage, and you'll now get to know a lot of folks in the Cali Baja region and at Baja Studios, which is.
I want to come, please. I want to come. I'd be thrilled to walk around and check it out and see if there's ways to work together. My family's from the north, from Torreon and Saltillo and Monterrey. And I spent a lot of time with my cousins there until, unfortunately, Torreon got a little bit dangerous. But I have spent many months in Mexico with my family there. And any chance I can come back, I would love it. I would just love it, wherever it is.
Well, we should say that Baja Studios has motion capture stages. They have skilled people that can do CG. They're building a skilled workforce in XR techniques, and they want to attract more production, and it's very cost effective to shoot and produce down there.
Well, I have a big project right now that needs some help. So particularly for modeling work, to make it, take some CG models and help them look more photoreal. So anybody who's in that front, please send them my way.
We will hook you up.
Please.
And your content, really is impressive, because a lot of what you've done has had a worldwide impact. The Syria piece, the Greenland melting piece for Frontline, and what I said earlier in our XR production panel is that the things that you've done not only affect people intellectually, where you're persuasive, but they change their minds. And I think that's part of what we were saying, is that embodiment and that presence, which has a visceral impact, is a dimension that's difficult to achieve with other forms of media. And with that,
I'm so glad I got to
thank you on behalf of the Borderless Content Congress. I thank you, and we look forward to seeing you and other people shooting down there in Cali Baja at Baja Studios. And I'm Stuart Volkow at University of California, San Diego, Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination. And thank you for watching.
Bye now. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for anybody who came to attend. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
El equipo mexicano es un equipo de calidad. Es gente que están acostumbrados al trabajo, saben lo que es.
an amazing place to come and shoot a film, and and an amazing facility to shoot a film.
I wish we could do every single movie that we do here.